The crushed white gardenias were too sweet in the afternoon heat, and Eliza Bailey's fingers were digging into my sleeve hard enough to wrinkle the cotton. 50 yards away, under an arch of white roses, her younger brother was reciting his vows. 200 guests watched in perfect silence. The ocean flashed beyond the estate lawn. A string quartet played something bright and expensive. Every detail looked peaceful enough to belong on the cover of a luxury wedding magazine. Except Eliza. She stood beside me, behind a white marble pillar, her floral dress moving softly in the breeze, while her hand trembled against my forearm. "They have the Q3 internal audit," she said. Her voice stayed low. Her eyes stayed on the altar. That was why I knew the damage was real. I did not turn my head. Sudden movement created attention. Attention created stories. And stories were dangerous when someone had already chosen the first lie. "Which version?" I asked. "The unredacted draft. The one with the zoning variances." Her thumbnail pressed into the side of her index finger until the skin paled. "A Financial Standard reporter emailed my assistant 12 minutes ago. They're running it at 6. The groom's voice cracked softly on his vows. Eliza did not blink. "The framing?" I asked. "That I diverted company money to cover this wedding." The gardenias pressed against the air like perfume poured over a crime scene. Eliza Bailey was 37, CEO of Bailey Hospitality Group, and the woman who had rebuilt her family's coastal resort empire after her father's death. The Q3 audit was not proof of fraud. I knew that the zoning variances were legal, ugly, and administrative. But if a headline connected luxury wedding flowers, unredacted audit notes, and variance money, no one would wait for explanation. Her brother's new in-laws held debt notes on Eliza's newest resort. If they panicked, they could call the loans. If the loans were called, the resort expansion collapsed. If the expansion collapsed, Eliza's board would ask whether she had put family pride ahead of corporate duty. And somewhere among the guests, a man who hated her had just smiled at his phone. I followed Eliza's line of sight without moving my shoulders. Hayes Calder sat in the 4th row on the bride's side, one ankle crossed over the other. His navy suit immaculate, his expression too calm for a former COO who had been fired 6 months ago for turning half her executive floor into a war zone. He looked up from his screen, then he smiled. "There's our delivery mechanism." I said, "Hayes didn't have server access." "No, someone inside gave it to him." Eliza's fingers tightened once more. Then she released my sleeve, as if realizing she had left evidence on me. I offered my arm, formal and clean. "Walk with me." She took it. To everyone watching, we were longtime friends, slipping away from the ceremony before the applause. Nothing dramatic, nothing worth photographing. The moment we reached the stone path behind the rose hedges, the guests erupted in cheers. The vows were done. The clock had started. "We need legal and IT." I said, "My outside counsel is at a court hearing in San Francisco. Marisol is at the downtown office. Then we get both on secure call. You sign limited preservation authorization. Marisol exports read-only logs. Nora sends a publication hold request. I build the narrative packet." Eliza looked straight ahead as we crossed into the shade of the estate. "You're not going to say you can make it disappear?" "No." Her mouth tightened. "Good. I can slow it down. That's all truth needs sometimes." We entered through the rear doors of the estate. The air conditioning hit us cold. The hallway smelled of polished wood, champagne, and more gardenias arranged in tall glass vases along the wall. Eliza stopped beside the private elevator. "My brother's father-in-law is giving a toast in the library in 20 minutes. If I miss it, his family notices. If I go and Hayes starts hinting." "You go," I said. You smile. You lift the glass. If Hayes approaches, I interrupt. "Because you're my crisis manager?" "Because I am your crisis manager, your friend, and the only person in this hallway who knows the reporter's deadline." She looked at me then. 7 years of friendship sat between us. Contracts, flights, quiet dinners after board fights, her calling me at midnight because an acquisition rumor had broken, me calling her from airports because she always knew which hotel loyalty desk could produce a room when the world failed. 7 years of knowing where the line was and never stepping over it. Ronan, she said, if anyone asks why you're beside me all day, we tell them the truth. That you're managing a corporate threat during my brother's wedding? No, I said. That you asked me not to let anyone ruin his day. Her face shifted. Not relief. Something steadier. She nodded. In her suite, the morning had left wreckage everywhere. Makeup brushes on the vanity. A torn seating card on the coffee table. A garment bag hanging open on the wardrobe door. The torn card read, Mr. Hayes called her. Eliza saw me notice it. I asked them not to invite him, she said. The bride's family insisted? He donated to their foundation. Of course he did. I picked up the torn card with a tissue from the desk and placed it in the side pocket of my folio. Why keep that? She asked. Because sabotage usually leaves social fingerprints before digital ones. She opened her laptop but did not touch the keyboard. I slid a single-page authorization form toward her. Limited Preservation Authority. Marisol exports logs. Nora sends hold letter. I do not access your server myself. Eliza's eyebrow lifted. That sounds like you're correcting a younger version of yourself. I've learned that heroic shortcuts make terrible exhibits. She signed. No hesitation. I called Marisol Vega first. Bailey Hospitality's IT security lead answered with wind in the background and irritation already loaded. Tell me this is not about the audit leak. It is. Eliza said. Marisol swore silently without using a single word. That was talent. Eliza's voice became CEO clear. I'm authorizing a read-only preservation export for the Q3 audit file history, executive access logs, download events, and external device activity for the past 30 days. Copy Nora Vale and Ronan. Hash timestamps. Chain of custody. Understood. Marisol said, I'll preserve before I interpret. Good. Next came Nora Vale, outside counsel, joining from a courthouse hallway. Her hair was pulled back, her patience non-existent. Do not accuse anyone yet, Nora said before I finished the summary. I wasn't planning to. I know your type, Ronan. Your type says timeline and secretly means trapdoor. Eliza glanced at me. She likes you. Nora likes procedure. I love procedure. Nora said, people are where the trouble starts. Within 7 minutes, Nora had sent the council-approved publication hold request to Emily Chen at the Financial Standard, warning that the leaked audit appeared to be stolen internal material under review, and that republication before verification could amplify a manipulated corporate document. Not an injunction, not a bluff. A hold request with a legal spine. At minute 9, Marisol's first export arrived. At minute 10, the mystery deepened. The file was downloaded from the executive floor. Marisol said over speaker, but the credential trail is messy. Eliza leaned toward the laptop. Messy how? Someone used CFO Marcus Vance's credentials at 2:14 a.m. 3 weeks ago, but the device fingerprint does not match his assigned laptop. Eliza went very still. Marcus Vance had been her CFO for 10 years. He knew every loan covenant, every board fear, every family weakness disguised as governance. Could Hayes have used Marcus's login? I asked. Could, Marisol said. Not proving that yet. I also see a ghost packet forwarded to an external drive. But I need the endpoint archive. Preserve it. Nora said, no conclusions. Eliza stared at the screen. The gardenia scent clung to her hair from the ceremony. Beneath it was the colder smell of hotel air and laptop heat. Her hand moved toward her phone. I did not touch her. I only placed the unsigned press hold draft between her and the device. She looked down at it, then back at me. If I call Marcus now, she said, he knows we're looking. Yes. If I call the board now, it leaks. Yes. If I do nothing, the article runs. No, I said, you are doing something. You're letting evidence catch up. Her fingers curled once against the desk, then opened. That was the first win. Not the logs, not the hold request. Her choosing process over panic. The library toast started in 18 minutes. We did not have the culprit. We had enough to slow the weapon. That had to be enough for now. When we walked into the mahogany-paneled library, the groom's new father-in-law was already raising a crystal flute. To family, he said. To trust. Eliza's hand tightened around her glass. Only I saw it. Hayes Calder stood near a wall of leather-bound books, smiling like a man who had placed a lit match under a silk tablecloth and was waiting for smoke. He watched Eliza enter, then me. I moved beside her, close enough to intercept, not close enough to perform anything private. The toast ended. Applause filled the room. Hayes crossed the rug. Eliza, he said warmly, beautiful ceremony. I hope you can enjoy the day before the world gets noisy again. Several guests turned. He wanted an audience. Eliza lifted her glass. My brother is married, she said. That is the only noise I'm honoring right now. Hayes smiled. Admirable. Though some stories don't wait for convenient timing. I stepped in with the mildest expression I owned. True, but responsible editors do. His eyes flicked to me. Ronan Ward. Still cleaning up after the powerful? Mostly cleaning up after people who think metadata is optional. The glass in his hand stopped moving. Not much. Enough. I continued, conversationally. A journalist using a stolen internal audit usually wants to know whether she's being used as a delivery system for corporate revenge. They dislike that. Hayes's smile did not fall. It hardened. Careful, he said. Always. Eliza's shoulder brushed my sleeve. A small, silent thank you. Not romance. Not yet. A pressure valve. Hayes retreated before anyone else understood why. At 5:12, Emily Chen replied, holding until 9 a.m., pending verification. Send provenance packet. 4 extra words would have broken a weaker room. Holding until 9 a.m. Eliza read the message in the corner of the library, the champagne untouched in her hand. The glass tilted slightly. A drop slid down the stem and touched her knuckle. She did not wipe it away. Now we find out who fed the audit, she said. The reception moved into the ballroom under chandeliers and white flowers. Dinner passed like a play performed underwater. Eliza laughed when her brother told a story about sneaking out of boarding school. She danced with her uncle. She posed beside the bride. Every time someone mentioned how lucky the family was. I watched the new in-laws across the room and remembered the debt note sitting under the wedding smile. At 7:46, Marisol sent the second export. Device fingerprint confirmed. The Q3 audit had been copied from a temporary workstation assigned to the CFO's office. But the actual badge entry on the executive floor that night did not belong to Marcus. It belonged to Hayes Calder. How? Eliza asked, reading the packet on my phone near the terrace doors. He was removed from company access 6 months ago, I said. But if Marcus kept a visitor credential active, Nora joined the secure call from her car. Don't leap, she said. I hate how often you say that to me. And yet you need it. Marisol came on next. I found the visitor credential. Hayes Calder was given after-hours access 3 weeks ago under a CFO office request. Eliza closed her eyes. One breath. Then another. The ballroom band shifted to a slower song behind us. The sweet gardenias on the terrace railing had started to bruise in the heat. Their scent was no longer pretty. It was heavy, almost sour. What does this prove? Eliza asked. Nora answered. It proves enough to send a board notice tonight and a provenance packet to Emily. It does not prove final conspiracy yet. Marcus can claim bad judgment or old access confusion. Hayes can claim he visited for a personal matter. I said. Eliza opened her eyes. But both of them have to explain why a visitor credential led to a copied audit that landed with a journalist days before my brother married into our lender's family. Exactly. Nora said, "Now we move clean." The next hour became a quiet war. Nora sent a preservation notice to Marcus, Hayes, the board, and the Financial Standard. Marisol locked down executive credentials. I built the press packet. Legal variances explained. Audit context clarified. Debt note exposure isolated. And the most important line in the whole document: no company funds were used for the wedding. Eliza wrote that sentence herself. Then she wrote another. The timing of this leak appears designed to create family and market pressure during a private wedding event. I looked at it. Sharp. Too sharp? No. Yours. At 8:58, Emily Chen confirmed the article would not run that night. At 9:04, Bailey Hospitality's board chair requested an emergency call for the next morning. At 9:07, Marcus texted Eliza, "We need to talk before you destroy the company over a misunderstanding." She turned the phone so I could see. Her thumb hovered over the reply field. I shook my head. She placed the phone face down on the terrace table. Second win. At 9:20, Hayes disappeared from the ballroom. At 9:23, the bride's father asked Eliza whether the Financial Standard was looking into anything unpleasant. There it was. The leak had reached family. Not public yet, but poisonous enough. Eliza's brother was across the room, laughing with his new wife, unaware that his marriage was standing inside a financial pressure cooker. Eliza looked toward him. Her face did not break, but her hand found the back of a chair and held it. "I need air," she said. She walked first. I followed because she looked back once. Only once. That was permission. We turned down a narrow corridor toward the conservatory. The music fell behind us. The air changed, cooler, damp, full of orchids and soil and the sweet, fading gardenias from the arrangements near the door. Eliza pulled me behind a wall of green leaves and stopped in a small alcove beside a wooden table. "No one can see us," she whispered. The sentence could have meant 1,000 unsafe things in a worse story. Here, it meant something else. No board, no brother, no lender, no guest watching her face for cracks. Just enough privacy for the CEO to stop performing before she had to return and save the room. I took out my folded linen handkerchief and offered it. She reached for it, missed the first time, then laughed once without sound. The handkerchief brushed her knuckles before she caught it. That small miss told me more than any speech. She pressed the linen under one eye, careful not to ruin the makeup someone had spent an hour applying for photographs. "I hate that I almost called Marcus," she said. "But you didn't." "I hate that I trusted him." That part is allowed. Her eyes lifted. I heard my own mistake before Nora could appear in my head and fine me for therapy language. I corrected it. What I mean is this. I said, trusting someone for 10 years was not the error. Ignoring the access trail now would be, you are not doing that. She held the handkerchief in both hands. The gardenia scent thickened around us. Are we safe until morning? The article is held. The board has notice. Marisol locked access. Nora has preservation. We have enough for a clean emergency call. And Hayes? He left because the room stopped being useful. Eliza nodded slowly. Then she said, "You always stand close enough to help and far enough to disappear." I had no quick answer. That was the problem with Eliza. She could aim one quiet sentence at the hinge of a door I had spent years keeping locked. "I'm your crisis manager." I said, "You're also my friend." "Yes." "And tomorrow?" The word sat between us. Tomorrow meant account transfer. Boundary. The thing I had been avoiding because it would make every unsaid thing possible. I looked toward the ballroom lights through the glass. Tomorrow, after the board call, my firm transfers the account to Priya and Nora. I stop being your crisis manager. Eliza's fingers closed around the handkerchief. And tonight? Tonight I stand beside you until your brother leaves happy. Your lenders stay calm. and the article remains paused. Her mouth softened. It would have been easy to step closer. Too easy. Instead, I picked up my phone, turned the screen toward her, and powered it down. The black glass reflected both of us. 10 minutes. I said, no alerts, no board, no haze. Then we go back. She looked at the dark phone, then at me. You can do that? Apparently. For 10 minutes, we stood in the alcove and said nothing important. That was the relief. Not a confession, not a kiss, not a hidden romance wrapped in crisis. Just two people letting the machinery stop long enough to breathe. When the 10 minutes ended, I turned my phone back on. No new fire. Eliza folded the handkerchief with surprising precision and handed it back. I'll return it properly. You don't have to. I know. She stepped out of the alcove first. By the time we re-entered the ballroom, her brother was cutting the cake. His new wife had frosting on one finger. The bride's father watched Eliza carefully, but he did not approach. Eliza crossed to him anyway. I could not hear the whole conversation from where I stood, but I saw the shape of it. Eliza did not plead. She did not over-explain. She said enough to hold the family line until morning. The bride's father glanced at me once, then nodded to her. Third win. At 7 o'clock the next morning, the estate was quiet except for staff collecting glassware from the lawn. The gardenias looked bruised in the early light. Eliza sat at the breakfast room table with Nora on video, Marisol on speaker. Me beside the window, and Clara Whitcomb, the bride's mother and the family representative for the debt notes, sitting stiffly across from her. Clara had requested to attend the first half of the call. Eliza had agreed. That mattered. If family money was part of the leverage, family needed to see process, not panic. Marisol presented the access trail. Nora presented the preservation notices. I presented the media timeline and the hold confirmation. Eliza presented the truth. No company funds paid for the wedding. The zoning variances were lawful administrative backlog items. The Q3 draft had been copied through a visitor credential authorized by the CFO's office and used after hours by a terminated executive. Clara listened without interrupting. When Eliza finished, Clara looked down at the packet. Then she said, "My family does not call loans because someone tried to humiliate the borrower during a wedding." Eliza's hand went still on the table. Clara continued, "Send me the final audit when council clears it. Until then, our notes remain unchanged." The gardenias outside the window moved in the morning wind. For the first time in 18 hours, Eliza's shoulders dropped. Not completely. Enough. At 8:30, the board call began. Marcus tried to frame the visitor credential as a clerical oversight. Hayes tried to claim he had visited the office for personal documents left behind after termination. Marisol's log destroyed that. Hayes had entered the executive floor at 2:09 a.m. The audit copied at 2:14. The external drive disconnected at 2:18. Marcus's office had renewed the visitor credential the day before. Nora did not accuse beyond the record. She did not need to. The board suspended Marcus pending investigation and authorized a full forensic audit. Hayes received the legal preservation notice before lunch. Emily Chen agreed to replace the original story with a reported piece on attempted internal sabotage, pending final board review. Not victory. Not yet. But the weapon had failed. 6 weeks later, Bailey Hospitality released the Q3 audit on its own site. Clean. Redacted properly. Explained plainly. The stock did not dip. Marcus was terminated after the forensic review confirmed credential misuse and unauthorized disclosure. Hayes settled after his counsel saw the access trail, the seating card, and the journalist packet. Clara's family kept the debt notes in place. Eliza's brother returned from his honeymoon with no idea how close his wedding had come to becoming a headline. Eliza kept the handkerchief for all 6 weeks. I knew because she told me. Not directly. A courier delivered it to my office on the morning after my firm's account transfer became official. Pressed flat, folded into a square, tucked inside a small envelope with no perfume, no note, Only one tiny white gardenia petal dried between the folds. I stared at it longer than I should have. Priya, who had taken over the Bailey account, walked past my office door and said, "You look emotionally compromised by laundry. I am evaluating fabric care. You are terrible at lying." I know. That evening, Eliza called. Not from the office. From her own number. No assistant copied. No account file open. "Ronan," she said, "are you still my crisis manager?" "No." "Are you still pretending that makes the question easier?" I looked at the handkerchief on my desk. "No." "Good. I have an autumn gallery opening tonight. The artist uses preserved flowers in glass. White gardenias. Mostly." "That sounds dangerous." "It probably is." A pause. "Come with me." "As what?" She did not rush the answer. That was why I trusted it. As the man who stood beside me when the flowers smelled like a warning. As my friend, and if the evening goes well, as the person I asked to dinner afterward. I closed my eyes once. Not because I was unsure, because, for once, there was no crisis to hide behind. "Yes," I said, "I'll come." The gallery was downtown, all brick walls, soft lights, and glass cases filled with preserved flowers suspended like memories someone had taught not to decay. Eliza arrived in a tailored trench coat, hair loose over one shoulder. No entourage, no assistant, no crisis posture. She saw me in the foyer and smiled. The room did not tilt. No alarms, no deadlines, no board calls. Only the faint, sweet scent of gardenias drifting from a display near the door. She walked to me and handed me a matte black lanyard. VIP, she said. "Very important paperwork? Very irritating professional. I accept." She laughed. Then she slipped her arm through mine. Public, simple, chosen. Inside the first glass case, white gardenias floated in clear resin. Preserved at the edge of wilting. Petals bruised faintly cream at the edges. Beautiful because they were not perfect. Eliza stood beside me. "I used to hate that scent," she said. I noticed, at the wedding, it felt like pressure. Family, money, reputation, all of it wrapped in flowers so no one had to call it fear. And now, she looked at the flowers. Now it reminds me that a warning can become a memory if you survive it honestly. I glanced at her. That was almost a closing thought. Don't edit me in public. I would never. You absolutely would. I smiled. She did too. At the end of the exhibit, the artist had placed a small wooden table beneath a single framed piece. One white gardenia pressed beside a torn seating card. Eliza went still. I looked at the plaque. Anonymous private commission. The torn card was not Hayes's real card, but it looked close enough. Eliza turned to me. "You commissioned this?" "No." She looked across the gallery. Her brother stood near the far wall with his new wife, both of them pretending not to watch. Eliza's eyes shone. Her brother lifted his glass. A thank you without forcing the story open. That was family repair. Quiet. Practical. Enough. After the gallery, Eliza and I walked outside into the cool autumn air. The city smelled like rain on pavement and roasted chestnuts from a cart at the corner. Nothing like gardenias. She stopped under the awning. "I never thanked you properly. You paid my invoice." She gave me a look. "Ronan." "Yes?" "I am not thanking the crisis manager." The streetlight caught the gold in her eyes. "I'm thanking the man who did not turn my fear into a debt." My throat tightened. The old reflex told me to joke, to deflect, to make myself useful instead of visible. I did neither. "You're welcome," I said. She held out her hand. No hidden alcove. No crisis. No one she needed protection from. I took it. Her hand was warm in mine. The gardenias were behind us now, sealed in glass, no longer suffocating. No longer a warning. Just proof that fragile things could survive if handled carefully. The end. Closing thoughts. Core lesson. Real love does not take over someone's crisis. It helps preserve truth, protect dignity, and create enough safety for the other person to stand on their own. Green flag. Healthy love respects timing, power, and boundaries. It does not turn fear into debt or secrecy into pressure. It waits until both people can choose freely. Like plus subscribe. Please like and subscribe so we can share more stories like this.